Hello, my name is Misha, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about what kind of equipment we typically use for wedding photography and videography projects. So let's get right into the video. This is the current camera that I use for wedding photo and video work. This is the Nikon Z6II, and at the time that I bought this camera, it was around $3,000. The reason I chose this camera is because this is a next generation mirrorless Nikon camera. They are smaller, lighter, and more powerful for photo and video work. But my favorite feature about this camera is going to be the fact that it has two memory card slots right here. That means that every time that I take a picture at your wedding, it saves it on two separate memory cards. Now, the chances of a memory card malfunctioning are extremely low, but it can happen. And I never want to call a client and tell them that their wedding photos are lost. So I made sure to buy a camera that has at least two memory card slots for security reasons and for my own peace of mind. These are the memory cards that I use in my cameras. Both of these are 512 gigabyte memory cards, and they are designed to be faster and more durable for wedding photo and video work. You can take very high resolution photos and you can record 4K footage. Typically, each memory card can go for anywhere between $400 to $500 each, and each camera will require two of these memory cards. One as a primary card and one for backup recording. When it comes to lenses, typically for the beginning of the day, I will use a 35mm 1.8 lens. This is a prime lens, so only has one focal length. It's one of my favorite lenses to use because it's wide enough for me to compose the shots, and I can set it to 1.8, which will blur out the background and keep my subject in focus. The reason why this is important is because sometimes I will arrive at a location and there might be things in the background that I want to blur out to make the shot look more artistic and beautiful. Also, since this lens can be set to 1.8, it performs better in low light conditions than most lenses. My videographer will typically use a lens like this one right here, which is a 28 to 75mm 2.8 lens. Both are really good options. It really just depends on the photographer and videographer's preferences. The next lens that I typically use is the Nikon 105mm 2.8 lens. The only reason that I use this lens is to take stunning photos of the rings. This lens just makes everything look more beautiful, and if you use this lens to take photos of people, it helps make their faces look more flattering than wide-angle lenses. I will explain this further in a future video. Now for the next part of the video, I'm going to discuss audio gear. Usually my videographer for the day will use a shotgun mic like the Rode VideoMic Pro right here. If they are close to the bride and groom, or if they have to be further away from the bride and groom, then they will usually use a Rode Wireless Go microphone, and that is the one right here. I have these in black and white color. The black one is for the groom and the white one is for the bride. We also use an external audio recorder that plugs directly into the soundboard, so it will record all audio from the microphones directly. We do this in case one of the audio sources fail on the day of your wedding. We want to have a backup audio source. The next piece of gear on my list is the Ronin RS2, and you may have seen videographers use these at weddings, and the purpose of this device is to keep the camera extremely steady. So you have very smooth footage and to help your video look more cinematic with unique movements. The best time to use this is right after the ceremony, where we have some time to spend with the bride and groom to capture some cinematic footage in a unique location. Either the bride and the groom choose the location, or we can provide some suggestions based on what we have available in your area. Now you're probably wondering, how does a videographer take video from the sky? Are couples actually renting a helicopter to get aerial shots? Well, that used to be the case maybe 10 years ago, but now we have something called the DJI Mini 3 drone. And I'm proud to say that I was one of the first to get one of these drones. And the main reason I got this particular model is because it shoots 4K video at 60 frames per second. The reason why 60 frames per second is important is because in post-production, we can actually slow down the footage to make it look slow motion. This will help create a more cinematic look. The next important reason I went for this drone is because it weighs just 249 grams. which means for me or any of my videographers don't need a drone license to operate one of these. It weighs just 249 grams, which means me or any of my videographers on the day of your wedding don't need to have a drone license to operate one of these. We typically use drones to capture an aerial shot of the couple's home, the venue, or the ceremony location, and we also use it for portrait sessions with the bride and groom. Have a look at some of the wedding videos on our website, and anytime you see an aerial shot, it was taken with the DJI Mini 3 drone. If you go for the package that has two photographers, two videographers, or just two photographers, typically the second shooter will need to be further away to capture complementary angles. So the best lens for a second shooter is going to be this lens right here, which is the 70 to 200 millimeter Sigma lens. This lens is extremely heavy to carry around all day with you as a photographer, and to wield this lens, you need to be going to the gym at least 5 times a week to have the physical strength to carry this lens. Although this lens is very heavy, it's the perfect lens for a second shooter that needs to be further away and still have a lens that performs great in low light conditions. The next piece of equipment on my list is my favorite on-camera flash, and that is the Godox V1 on-camera flash. This thing is very powerful and it is used to light up the entire room so that all the images have really good lighting and really good exposure. I can also use this off camera and have it mounted on a light stand so there's less weight on my camera, but I typically prefer to have it on my camera for more control. When it comes to wedding video lighting, we like to use the Aperture 60X. I'll put it on my screen right here so you can have a look at what it looks like. The purpose of this light is to light up the podium and the head table area and to light up the dance floor so that the footage looks good in your wedding video. Later in the evening, venues will usually bring down the brightness of the room, making it really dark. This is okay for photographers because we have on-camera flash. But for wedding video work, it makes it really difficult because if we turn up the brightness in camera, the footage will lose its quality. So the only workaround is to light up the important areas with wedding video lights. The good thing about these lights is that they are battery powered in case we don't have outlets, and they are bicolor, which means they have both yellow light and white light. So the color temperature can be adjusted to match the ambiance of your room. After the wedding ceremony, just before we go to the reception, we take the bride and groom to a beautiful location near their wedding venue to start some additional photo and video coverage. This is one of the most important parts of the day because this is our time to create some stunning photo and video with the bride and groom that's going to be used in their final gallery and in their final wedding footage as well. And during the photo session, I will typically use an off-camera flash that's extremely powerful, something powerful enough to overpower the sun and basically remove all the shadows from the couple's faces. And on top of that, this off-camera flash kit will help create amazing lighting on both the bride and the groom, so that later on when you see the photos, it looks like there's perfect lighting on both the bride and the groom. This is the flash kit that I used. This is basically a softbox attached to two different 80-200 Pros. This creates around 200 watts of power. This will be mounted on a light stand just above the bride and groom, and this basically shines a really powerful flash on the couple, giving them really amazing lighting. And now for my last piece of gear that I use on a wedding day. This is the GoPro Hero 10. And the purpose of this camera is to mount it on top of my main camera. And this helps to capture behind the scenes footage for YouTube and training purposes so that other aspiring photographers can experience and learn photography on an actual wedding day before they actually go on the job site. When I was studying photography from other photographers, I used to watch endless hours of behind the scenes training footage, and it really helped me learn from other photographers' experience. So hopefully all the future behind the scenes episodes that we release will be helpful to future photographers as well. This pretty much covers most of the gear that we use on a wedding day. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.